The hardest money you will ever save is your first $10,000. It is an absolute grind. It feels like you are pushing a boulder up a mountain, and every time you take a break, it rolls right back over you. But once you finally cross that $10,000 threshold, everything changes. The math changes, your mindset changes, the way the world treats you changes. Today, we are going to break down exactly why the first $10,000 is the ultimate financial cheat code, and why life gets significantly easier the moment that money hits your account. Let's start with the most obvious barrier, the gravity of zero. When you have $0, or worse, when you are in debt, you are in a constant state of financial emergency. Every single unexpected expense is a crisis. A flat tire isn't just an inconvenience, it's a disaster that might mean you can't pay rent. A medical bill isn't just a nuisance, it's the beginning of a debt spiral. When you are living in this state, your brain is operating in what psychologists call the scarcity mindset. You are so focused on surviving the next week that you literally do not have the cognitive bandwidth to plan for the next year, let alone the next decade. You aren't thinking about investing in index funds or starting a side hustle. You are thinking about how to keep the lights on. This is why saving the first $1,000, $5,000, and eventually $10,000 is so brutally difficult. You are fighting against the gravity of your own immediate survival needs. Every dollar you try to save is violently pulled away by the friction of everyday life. But here is the secret. $10,000 is the exact amount of money where you reach escape velocity. Think of a rocket launching into space. It burns the vast majority of its fuel just getting through the Earth's atmosphere. The first few miles are the hardest, the loudest, and the most dangerous. But once it breaks through the atmosphere and enters the vacuum of space, it barely needs any fuel to keep moving forward. It just glides. $10,000 is your financial escape velocity. When you have 10 grand sitting in a high-yield savings account, a flat tire is no longer a crisis. It's just a flat tire. You pay the $200 to fix it, and your life moves on. You don't have to put it on a credit card at 25% interest. You don't have to borrow money from a friend. The emergency is neutralized by your cash buffer. This creates a massive psychological shift. For the first time in your life, you can breathe. The background radiation of financial anxiety disappears, and because your brain is no longer trapped in the scarcity mindset, you suddenly have the mental clarity to start looking toward the future. You can start taking calculated risks. Let's talk about those risks, because this is where the real wealth is built. When you have $0, you are forced to say yes to everything. You have to say yes to a toxic boss. You have to say yes to a terrible job because you need the paycheck on Friday. You have absolutely no leverage in your own life. $10,000 isn't quite retire on a beach money, but it is absolutely no thank you money. It's enough money to say no thank you to a boss who disrespects you because you know you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses in the bank while you look for a better job. It's enough money to say no thank you to a bad living situation because you have the cash to put down a deposit on a new apartment. Having leverage completely changes the trajectory of your career and your life. You can negotiate harder. You can take a month off to learn a new high-income skill. You can invest in a course, buy equipment for a freelance business, or move to a city with better opportunities. The wealthy get wealthier because they have the capital to seize opportunities when they arise. $10,000 gives you your first taste of that power. Now let's look at the math, because the math is where things get really exciting. Charlie Munger, the legendary billionaire investor, famously said that accumulating the first $100,000 is a bitch, but you have to do it. But for most people today, aiming for $100,000 right out of the gate is too daunting. $10,000 is the modern stepping stone. Once you have $10,000, compound interest finally starts to become visible. If you have $100 invested at an 8% return, you make $8 a year. That's a fancy cup of coffee. It's uninspiring. It doesn't motivate you to keep going. But when you have $10,000 invested at that same 8%, you are making $800 a year. That's a car insurance payment or a month of groceries, generated completely passively. Your money has officially hired itself out and is working a part-time job for you. You start to see the snowball rolling down the hill. This visible progress is incredibly addictive. Once you see your money making its own money, your entire relationship with spending changes. You stop looking at a $100 pair of shoes as just $100. You start looking at it as a piece of your wealth-building engine. You realize that keeping that $100 invested will turn it into $200, then $400 over time. Saving stops feeling like a sacrifice and starts feeling like an investment in your own freedom. So how do you actually get there? How do you push that boulder up the hill to hit the $10,000 mark? It comes down to aggressive temporary imbalance. You cannot save your first $10,000 by casually cutting out lattes. You have to attack the big three expenses: housing, transportation, and food. This might mean getting a roommate for a year. It might mean driving a beaten-up Honda Civic instead of financing a new car. It might mean meal prepping every single Sunday and completely cutting out restaurants for 6 months. Is it fun? No. But remember, this is a temporary sprint. You are just trying to break through the atmosphere. Simultaneously, you have to increase your income. You can only cut your expenses to a certain point, but your earning potential is theoretically limitless. Take on extra shifts. Start driving for a delivery service on weekends. Sell the clutter in your house. Take every single extra dollar you earn and throw it at that $10,000 goal. If you can save just $27.40 a day, you will hit $10,000 in exactly 1 year. $27. That is 1 hour of freelance work. That is skipping a takeout dinner. When you break it down into daily actions, the impossible suddenly becomes entirely achievable. The moment you cross that line, I promise you, the weight of the world lifts off your shoulders. The glass ceiling breaks. You transition from playing defense with your money to playing offense. If you want to learn exactly how to invest that first $10,000 once you've saved it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our next breakdown. Keep pushing, keep saving, and I'll see you in the next one.